These are 12 running backs you must draft in 2024 redraft fantasy football leagues. We're going to go through 12 guys that we think at their current ADP are undervalued, and some of them that could be potential league winners. We're going to go off of Fantasy Pros ADP, which kind of takes an average of all the different sites. So whatever site you're on, it might not be perfectly accurate, but we'll do the best we can here. All right, starting off with the first running back, we got Breece Hall. So Breece Hall finished as the overall running back 7 last year. And that was coming off of a slow start, and that was due to his ACL tear the previous year. The last half of the year, if you only take, weeks 10 to 17-ish, he was the overall running back 3. So you could see just as he was ramping up throughout the year, he got right back into form. And again, this was all with Zach Wilson as his quarterback. Now enter Aaron Rodgers in what will be one of the best offenses. I mean, one of the best teams in the NFL, and the Jets, as long as Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. But even if he isn't vintage Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be better than Zach Wilson. And I think Breece Hall. So, I get it. Breece Hall, that's a no-brainer. We're starting off with a must-draft guy. That's a no-brainer pick like Breece Hall. But I think him or Bijan, which we'll get to Bijan in a second, are the two running backs that have that one of them will finish as the overall running back 1. So right now he's going off the board as running back 2, but it's justifiable, and I think he's completely worth that pick. We'll get into in our running backs to avoid video, teaser here with Christian McCaffrey, possible avoid there.
Spicy.
So we'll see. But I do think Breece Hall is going to be in top contention for the overall running back 1.
Agreed. Another guy that I think will be in contention for the overall RB1, you hinted at it, Bijan Robinson, going as the RB3 off the board in the middle of the first. Bijan obviously did not live up quite to the hype that we all had for him his rookie year, but there's a big asterisk there. He was splitting carries with Tyler the Alligator, Algier, and even losing goal line work to Cordarrelle Patterson. I mean, what's his name? The OC. Why am I blanking? That was there last year.
Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith. Thank you. I mean, just the utilization on a guy that they drafted in the first round was absurd. Bijan only saw 3 carries inside the 5-yard line all year. He converted 2 of those for touchdowns. So on top of getting a better OC, the offense is going to be significantly better with Kirk at the helm. They had QB troubles all last year. Bijan's utilization is going to be significantly better. And, like PB said, I think him and Breece are the 2 guys competing with CMC for that RB1 this year. It's obviously a little bit scarier of a pick because we haven't seen him prove it in the pros, but the level of talent and the potential ceiling that you're drafting on a guy like Bijan is it's too good to pass up. If you're in that, it changes league to league where wide receivers go early, but if you're in that kind of 5 to 8 range, you should have a look at least Breece or Bijan, and I am not upset with either click there. So another guy could see eclipsing CMC in Bijan Robinson.
Bijan.
I'm disappointed in both of you because you haven't included my guy, Saquon Barkley, in your potential RB1 candidates, who I'm absolutely all over this year. Obviously moves to Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. Saquon's not getting any love. I don't understand it. You got the, offensive line who ranked first in run block win rates last season, 7th in rushing yard attempts. He's got the 9th easiest strength of schedule for running backs this year. And it's Saquon Barkley. Why are we all forgetting of how great of a talent he is? Critics might say, oh, I'm scared of Jalen Hurts snaking 19 touchdowns. Jason Kelsey's gone, and let's call a spade here. The Eagles have never had a hammer around the goal line in running back. They had Kenneth Gainwell and DeAndre Swift, more scat backs, and now they have some power in their backfield, so they're going to be able to actually run instead of throwing their dynasty QB into giant defensive tackles 45 times a year. So expecting a massive year from Saquon Barkley. I totally think he could be RB1, and I'm getting as much of him as I can this year.
Yeah.
I just want to preface before we go on number 4. We're kind of going in order of ADP. So I know we're starting off with some like heavy hitter running backs that might seem obvious, but we're picking and choosing, our spots in the early rounds, and then we'll get into some as we go. I just want to say that at the beginning.
We just list off the top 12 guys off the board.
We jump a few spots here now.
Yeah. We're getting into the good range now of finding gems.
Yeah. So if you are not taking one of these top 4, running backs in the first, 17 picks, 18 picks, there are a couple that trail behind. And with that is going to be Isaiah Pacheco, going late second round, early third, depending on, when your drafts start. He's the RB11 off the board. Now, Isaiah Pacheco plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. If you live under a rock, Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, very good offense.
Who?
Very, very good offense over there. Rookie year for Pacheco, he had 830 rushing yards, 13 receptions, 130 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns, finished at RB37. That's the year that he was a rookie, splitting carries with Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon. Last year, sophomore year, pretty much has the backfield to himself. Clyde Edwards-Helaire still got some carries, but Pacheco finished with 925 rushing yards, 244 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns, finishes RB15. He's now the clear-cut RB1 there. There is some talk of, obviously CH is still there. You got Prince, who's getting some hype in the preseason and, training camp, but no one lives up to Pacheco's, ceiling right now, and solidifying that RB1 there.
Or running for him.
Or running for him. He runs like a madman. He
nobody compares.
Says he hates the turf. That's how he runs. He saw more than 135 carries than any other running back on the roster. He tripled his receptions in his second year and doubled his touchdown output as well. He had 42 carries inside the opponent's 20, which ranked 8th highest in the league last year. And then also kind of a surprising stat, he only rushed the ball 9 times within the 5-yard line with 3 rushing yards. Obviously, that's not really a huge stat, but he converted 5 touchdowns on those 9 attempts. So when they're giving the ball and they're not doing all this hokey pokey, turn yourself around behind the back passes, like he's very reliable on the goal line. They really do utilize Travis Kelce down there. So hopefully this year, you'll see Pacheco get more goal line work and really pay off his RB tag of RB11 off the board, which I think he very well could, especially in that offense. So Pacheco going, late second, early third, if you want to grab 2, receivers off the board and then get your starting right back there, don't mind doing that at all. So very, very good pick.
All right. Number 5, right?
Yep.
5.
Najee Harris. So right now he's going off the board as running back 24. I'll make sure. Yeah, at the end of the 6th round. He finished last year as the running back 26. And that's with Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitch Trubisky leading the offense with still pretty bad to like below average offensive line. Now you get Arthur Smith, an upgrade at quarterback. Whether it's Russ or Fields, I think both of them are at least better than Kenny Pickett and the other band of misfits there last year. Now they have an upgraded offensive line after they've invested in it the last 2 years. He's still only 26 years old. Jaylen Warren now has a hamstring injury, which, I think he'll be back. It's not like it'll keep, but it's going to put him at risk for re-injury. And it seems like who knows? This could be dated by the time this comes out. But right now, it seems like it could be like a moderate hamstring strain. So hamstring, moderate hamstring strain here. But running back 24 just feels like the absolute floor for Najee. And then there's so much upside in this run-heavy offense. So I would be absolutely thrilled to have Najee Harris as either my running back 2 in redraft or like a flex spot. I think that would be amazing to have on your rosters. So draft Najee Harris in 2024. A guy I've historically been out on, but I'm back in this year.
Back in.
That makes me extremely bullish.
If
you're able to change your tune on a guy, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I've been out. But I think Jaylen Warren is probably the more like explosive like guy, but I just think Najee is going to get that early down work. He's just going to get the goal line work, and he'll get the touches. What?
Corey.
Yes, Corey.
You failed to mention his rookie season where he absolutely just everyone and was absolutely, he was an RB1.
Yeah,
and like that's not so many years removed. I mean, yeah, he's not catching.
Yeah, I know it's not. But then he's kind of regressed, and now I think he's due for a solid 2024 campaign.
Yeah, for sure. All right, another guy in the same range. If people realize how good Javonte is, you'll have Brian Robinson to pick right after him. He's going as RB 33 right now, so he's not even ranked as a starting running back, which is kind of crazy. Maybe some of the Austin Eckler fans out there are bringing down his ADP a little bit, but that guy's going to continue running through sand as he ages. And I think the biggest benefit is Eckler has been training Brian Robinson up a lot on the pass catching game through OTAs. Something coaches have said that they're very excited about to utilize him a little bit more in, which is extremely bullish for a guy who really depended a lot on the ground last year. And he still ranked as RB22 in fantasy points per game. So if he mixes in the passing work, he's definitely going to pay off his price tag as RB33. And, maybe even a top 15 type of season. So, obviously, he's a big running back, can break a lot of tackles. He ranked 13th in yards after contact last year. And like I said, with that passing game stat, just to go back, he was 5th on yards per route run. So when he is running routes, he's going for a long shot. So love that for him this year.
All right. Heading back to the AFC North here, we've got Chase Brown going in round 10 as RB38 right now. So Chase Brown, obviously rookie year, sits behind Joe Mixon, doesn't get a ton of work, but in this range, you're drafting for high upside. And Chase Brown is a guy who has that high upside. He's an explosive pass catching back in one of the best offenses in the league. He's going to have to improve in his pass protection. Obviously, Burrow's got to stay upright, but he's competing against a guy in Zach Moss who's been inconsistent his entire career. He's not a workhorse like Joe Mixon. And last year, when Chase Brown did play, he had 2 or more catches in his last 5 games and averaged 6.5 carries, which doesn't sound like a ton because it's not, but that's all well not playing more than 30% of the snaps the entire 5 games in that sample. So he's a guy who has shown that he's explosive. He can be an RB1 in a really solid offense, and one of these high upside guys that you can get late that you could potentially, bench stash for a couple of weeks, who could be the starting guy, the 3-down guy late in the season when you need him.
Yeah. I mean, Zach Moss, come on, last season did very well.
You dog him every time we bring him up on here. And you're like, he wasn't very good for the Colts. Yeah.
He had a couple good games. All right, moving on here. We're going to jump back up to some of the earlier rounds here with James Cook. It's not Dalvin Cook. I'm pretty sure. It's James Cook. I don't think Dalvin Cook's even in the league anymore. But James Cook, early 4th round, mid 4th round, going as RB14 off the board. Last year he was the bell cow in Buffalo. I mean, he played 55% of the snaps and saw a 62.4 share, resulting in almost 1,600 yards from scrimmage, finishing as RB19 off the board. So obviously where he's being drafted, a little bit higher than where he finished, but you also have to think what happened during the offseason in Buffalo. Well, Diggs and Gabe Davis are gone. Can any of you guys tell me how many touchdowns they combined for last year?
Diggs and
13.
Gabe.
Diggs and Gabe.
Double
13.
digits for sure.
15 touchdowns. So 15 touchdowns are now gone from the offense. Now we look at the receiving room for Buffalo. Obviously, it's not the greatest. You got Keon Coleman, you got Khalil Shakir, you got Dalton Kincaid, you got Curtis Samuel, who's now dealing with turf toe. And you can throw in, MVS, you can throw in Matt Collins. It's not like this explosive offense that we've seen in the past years with the talent on paper. Now, obviously, Josh Allen does run the ball a lot, which does take carries away from James Cook. But last year in his opportunities, he saw 5.6 yards per touch, which was 5th in the league, and only saw about 9.9 in target share, which obviously I believe should increase this year with, again, Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs no longer being there. He's a very consistent running back. Obviously, if you're drafting a running back this high, and I say this high, it depends on where you value your running backs. 4th round people may value, as a high running back, but I mean, he was consistent. He averaged 13 points per game last year. And he should have an increased larger role this year. So, I mean, if he is your RB, 2, I mean, I think that there's a lot of consistency going there. If he's finishing, at least 13 points a game, like he's going to have larger games. So I think he's a solid pick going in the 4th round. If you are going 0 running back strategy, which, you can do in season long, I know it's a best ball term, but you can, coin that as well. And you can get really good running backs in this range, and, he's going to pay off and assumingly have a larger role than what he did last year. So Cook, draft him in the 4th.
He's a guy who's got in my mind, a very high floor. I mean, the amount of touches and catches out of the backfield that he's going to get just week in and week out. And he's got that high ceiling as well. So I think he's a super solid pick.
Mm-hmm. Shoot.
All right. Next, we have Antonio Gibson. So we kind of, covered some of the early guys, mid-round guys. We still have a few more mid-round guys. I don't know. We kind of skipped to the end here with Antonio Gibson, but we're moving around. Antonio Gibson is a guy that, if you kind of just blundered with your running back picks early, I mean, you don't really want him to be in your RB2 slot in season long. You'd ideally want him in like a flex or something like that. But he is a guy that has contingent upside if something happened to Ramondre. He is a valuable handcuff, in my opinion. But so he finished as the running back 41 last year. He's going as the RB 48 in the late 13th round. So again, these are just like late round picks that, have a lot of upside. In my opinion, late round picks should be more heavily devoted to running backs, as they just have the most upside, in my opinion, at that point. Like, they could be zeros for 6 weeks, whatever, and then all of a sudden they're thrust into an RB2 spot because of an injury or something. So, but I think Antonio Gibson will have value even without an injury to Ramondre. The Patriots are most likely not going to be good this year. They're going to be playing many games from behind. They paid Ramondre Stevenson, and I think he's going to be the early down back, but I think Gibson is the better suited back at, playing catch-up mode and the third down back. I mean, it was just a few years ago that Gibson had 1,000. It was 2 years ago. He had 1,000 rushing yards and 300 receiving yards and double-digit touchdowns for the Commanders. So again, if you're in a pinch for running backs, yes, he's better in PPR formats, obviously, because of the pass catching. But even in half-point PPR, I think he's going to put up some serviceable games. And again, if anything were to happen to Ramondre, he's going to be a top 24 running back. He's 6'2", 228, and can handle a workhorse role, which we've already seen him do.
I didn't realize he was that big.
I mean, either.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
Patriots did kind of sell out that defense trading Judon too. So
Yeah.
they're going to be playing from behind a lot.
Yep.
All right. Another mid-round guy here, Javonte Williams, going in like the late 7th, early 8th, and RB 31 off the board right now. So obviously Javonte didn't look great last year. He was coming off that knee injury, just didn't look like himself. And I think a lot of that is in part because he was rushed back a little bit. You know, it was this catastrophic. It wasn't just an ACL. His knee exploded. And there was reports in preseason that he was running again already and, you know, taking snaps out of the backfield. And I remember us talking about it and just being like, this man's either superhuman or this is the dumbest decision that a franchise can make for a starting running back. But anyways, we're 2 years removed now from that knee. And the data shows that 2 years off an injury like that is when guys really get back or they don't. So obviously taking a little bit of a risk here, but you're getting a guy who's been in the Sean Payton offense for another year. And in crowded backfields like you have in the Broncos room, it's really important to listen to the camp talk and watch some of the preseason usage. Sean Payton has been saying he looks slim, he looks fast again. He was running with the starters in preseason. You know, you're also going to likely get a starting quarterback who's a rookie in Bo Nix. We know that starting rookie quarterbacks like to target their dump offs to the running backs, their tight ends on short routes. You know, they're not quite used to that game speed of the NFL yet. So a lot of the check downs and stuff go to running backs and tight ends. And in Sean Payton's offense, 32% of targets went to RBs last year. So Javonte's not typically that pass catching back or that prototype that you're looking at, like, you know, a Jahmyr Gibbs or something like that, a dual threat guy. But I think the opportunities are going to be there. He's going to be in a contract year, so he's going to be running for a new payday. And I think 2 years off of this knee injury is going to do him well. We were off of him last year. We're all back on him again this year. I mean, the dude's a stud, and I think he gets back to form.
Yeah, and they bolstered that offensive line as well. So,
yep,
should be full sail.
Yep,
Wholesale. Yeah.
Javonte season.
Get him at Costco. All right, we're going to jump to RB41, Blake Corum of the Los Angeles Rams. Probably one of the most valuable handcuffs you could draft this year.
The most, probably.
Yeah, honestly.
I would say the most.
I personally think that the Rams backfield will look very similar to the Lions of last year, where both guys put up over 200 yards. Obviously, a little bit more of an aggressive take, 200 points. More of an aggressive. Thanks for the look, Corey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they could both get it done. They've never really had two really good running backs. They've always been throwing out like Cam Akers, and Kyren was a huge surprise, obviously, last year. But I think the moral of the story is Sean McVay knows how to put guys in a position to succeed. He runs a brilliant offense, and he produces league winners. Last year, he put up Kyren and Puka. I mean, two guys out of nowhere. So they bring in Blake Corum, spend third-round draft capital, which is pretty significant for a running back. So I got to think that he's going to be in the mix quite a bit. And, all systems are a go. If Kyren could, put up top 5 RB numbers, Blake Corum probably was scouted to be a little bit more talented. Can't wait to see what he does in that offense. So I think he's all upside.
Yeah, I mean, he was an absolute stud at Michigan. So.
Dog.
Yeah. I mean, for as short as he is insanely strong. He put up like 27 reps at the combine, which was first as running backs, and he beat out like over 50% of linemen. So he's going to be throwing safeties out there.
It would be a first for McVay to do something like have a committee, but if it were to happen, now would be the time. And again, like you said, like if anything happens to Kyren, I mean, Blake Corum is like a top 5 running back every week.
Yeah,
Make the
I
game
think
top
they just
three.
didn't have the roster to like run two guys back there. Like it was Todd Gurley and nobody, Cam Akers.
Rolls
Right.
Royce Freeman.
Oh,
Yeah.
Rolls Royce.
Rolls
Case in
Royce.
point. Thank you very much.
What a name. All right. Well, I'll round us up here with kind of the theme of the last couple picks. Upside, and upside. And then sprinkle on some more upside on this one. That's going to be Rico Dowdle. He is being drafted in the 11th round as RB 44 off the board. Now you say, Corey, Zeke's there. All right, fine, fair enough. You wanna put your money on Zeke? Well, let's read off what Zeke did last year. Zeke Elliott carries after contact has tanked in consecutive seasons. Last year he was coming at under 1 yard. Last year, New England Patriots per contact. The dude's old. He's washed. He's not the Zeke. He's not the feed me Zeke anymore. He's the
Well,
get
you
me.
might be the feed me Zeke still.
Oh, he may be in different.
Different type of feed me. See,
He's walking out there with a walker, and he's just like, "Come on, Dallas, give me one more shot." And they did. It's like the retirement home. So, but getting back to Rico here, obviously for Rico, we don't know much about him. In his collegiate career, he never eclipsed more than 135 carries or touches of the ball. Obviously, last year in the NFL, was playing random, spots here and there for the Dallas Cowboys.
Vulturing Tony Pollard.
Yeah, he did vulture Tony P a couple of times, but Tony P was. We won't get on the Tony P train because he hurt us a lot last year. But the Cowboys were a very pass-heavy offense last year, but now they bring in new OC Schottenheimer from the Seahawks, and to kind of build off of what we're trying to create here is that Schottenheimer is going to kind of change the offense to more a little bit balanced. With the Seahawks, they ranked 6th last year in run play rate at 42%, which was higher than Dallas. He runs in more of an inside zone concept. Again, with that, the Cowboys ranked 19th last year in that run concept. Seahawks ranked 3rd in the inside zone rate running scheme. So if they are moving to that, which you would assume that they would, because a lot of offenses do take up the OC and their schemes, they don't really fall back into what they know. You're going to see some more upside here for Cowboys running backs. In terms of passing game, I think Rico Dowdle is obviously the more, liable option out there besides Zeke. Zeke is more of that, goal line back. So that's where the worry comes in. And that's why they're basically drafted in the same round, if not one round apart, because people are assuming that Zeke could just be the LeGarrette Blount of a few years past, where LeGarrette Blount only would touch the ball within the 5-yard line, but would get like 2 or 3 touchdowns a game. Hopefully that's not the case. I think at this point in time, in the draft, again, you're looking for running backs with a lot of upside, and in a high potent offense like the Cowboys, like you want that. You want a piece of that. If you're not getting CeeDee Lamb, you're not getting Jake Ferguson, like they need a running back there. So I think that he's the more talented running back in my eyes, and I think he's gonna have a lot of different opportunities. And really just hopefully that Zeke just, plays, second fiddle and just comes in on, to give him breathers here and there. So I like the pick. I've been taking him everywhere I could. So draft Rico Dowdle here, and you should see a lot of success.
Love me some Rico. All right, that'll do it for 12 wide receivers to draft.
Running back.
2024. What did I say?
You said receivers.
Man.
Outro ruined.
Oh, we got to do the whole video again.
A clean outro there. That'll do it for 12 running backs to target this year. Stay tuned for our running backs to avoid in the next video. Please leave a like, subscribe, and comment your favorite running back picks in 2024 fantasy football. Thank you for watching.